give me feedback.
Hey, will we be in your camera angle that we stand on this right here? Or like, is there places behind? Like, we can go in the back. Let me ask for
We're going to slide in behind these things.
Where are we going?
just making space.
Actually, I was just joking with Patrick. I wish we'd have had this class.
They can maybe slide behind the things over here. Does that work?
My son took the same level class 2 years ago. And tuition was very here. It cost
Again, those are the
like, no, I should not. I was like,
You guys should be moved second row. I know. I think.
Can we just move that to the side?
Yeah, maybe we'll work to get this side over here.
Yeah, let's make
I'm Gino. Yes, you are. Okay, real handshake. What's the fake one?
Are you,
Yes, That one. Yep. I have 4 grandkids.
I don't know any other Jen.
I was going to say, there's not
I have 4 grandkids. I have a second grader at Harbor Heights, kindergarten at Harbor Heights, 4-year-old coming up the ranks, 2-year-old. And both my kids went to kindergarten school, Harbor Heights all the way up.
There you go. Is that for you?
Is that? No. Is this okay if we put some?
And all my friends and I were together. Then I went to order. So just
I call the February 28, 2019 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow. Okay.
Better than my class.
This business meeting of the Board of Directors is being held in public in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act and is being live streamed. With regard to routine matters, board members have reviewed the agenda and have had the opportunity to clarify questions with the superintendent prior to the board meeting. Such matters are often processed without additional comment or debate. So at this time, I am asking, are there any changes to the agenda?
I would like to change, Madam Chairman. I would ask that we move the superintendent's report, item number 9, to right after special recognition, item 4.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
I second that.
Okay. So Marcia moved to move item 9, superintendent's report, to follow item 4, special recognition. David seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda has been approved, and I apologize I didn't say this earlier. Leslie is on her way. She'll be here momentarily. So. Okay. Tonight we've got some very special recognitions. From across our district, we will be first honoring our new National Board Certified teachers. So I will ask John Helwig to come up and present.
So first of all, I'm substituting for Mary Casely, who is our National Board Support Person, and I'm sad she wasn't able to be here because she and her team do a great job of supporting our National Board candidates. I'm also honored to do this because I'm a fellow National Board Certified teacher myself from 2002, and it changed my professional life, and I'm a huge supporter of the program. And I think knowing what it takes to get through this program gives me great honor when we recognize the people that we're going to recognize today. It's a huge investment. It requires an entire family to commit, sometimes for a year, sometimes for more than a year. And I hope that you can really appreciate what it takes to go through the National Board Certification process. So I'd like our MBCTs to come on up, please, to be recognized. By the way, Mary's son is graduating Cub Scouts tonight, so that's why she couldn't make it. So. Can you guys stand this way so the board can see? Oh. There you go. Over, yeah, by Janice. Okay, no, I can't see. All right, here we go. So, yeah, if I could, after I introduce each one, if they kind of raise their hand, and then we can give them a round of applause at the end. Our first MBC to recognize is in the area of adolescent and young adult science at Gig Harbor High School, and that's Ramey Leroy. Next we have in early adolescent and young adult art from Gig Harbor High School, Elise Yeaman. One of my oldest professional friends, we were in the Puget Sound Writing Project cohort in 1994, and that is English Language Arts and Adolescent Young Adult English, and that is Janice Johansson. Peninsula High School. Also from Peninsula High School, in early adolescent and young adult music, we have Allison Ellis. In reading language arts and early middle childhood literacy from Artendale Elementary, we have Liz Kranich. Same area at Artendale also is Tatum Mitchell. And here is not her, okay? And also from Artendale, but generalist, middle childhood generalist, and that's Carrie Rogers. And a big hand for our newest National Board.
No, you're okay.
One other group I want to recognize, we didn't ask them to come in attendance, but I do want to recognize them, and those are our teachers who recertified. After 10 years, you go through a process to get your recertification for your certificate, and that is from Harbor Ridge Middle School, Catherine Berkey, from Vaughn Elementary, Marcy Cummings-Coho, Trish Draghi, and Catherine Moore.
Okay, thank you, John, and congratulations, teachers. That's fantastic, and what an accomplishment. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on, but I'm checking to see. Shannon's Jennifer here? Oh, okay, so we're going to move on. We have some bond recognition. We passed our bond, and we would like to recognize a few members, and I'm going to start with the SUP team and Jennifer Butler, and Dr. Jarvis will be making a presentation.
Jennifer, would you join me up here?
Oh, sure.
It has been a long time. Later in the evening, we will be recognizing officially from the board, we have received a certificate of election for the Peninsula School District number 401. I'm just going to read the last paragraph and then two numbers. Based on the pass-fail requirements determined by the district, the results of the canvass indicated this measure passed. as the total votes. The total votes reached the validating figure required from the last general election held in said district on November 6, 2018, and received the 60% favorable margin required to pass. And the actual numbers are approved, 16,283, which equates to 66.59%. How do we thank the whole community? And we start with thanking Jennifer for leading the effort. And on behalf of we don't have enough, but we at least gathered some that you can share in whatever fashion or lottery with the thousands of people that helped you so that we could say some kind of token of thank you to a broader community. But I would love to have you recognize the group and stand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all sprinkled around here tonight. So if people could stand up who are part of the team and just wave. I'll have a few things to say during public comment, maybe that, or should I do it
Actually,
now?
down.
No?
Okay.
I guess I'll
Before you move
talk
on to
now.
that, Jennifer, I'd like to just also recognition from the board. On behalf of the Peninsula School District Board of Directors, thank you, Jennifer, and the entire SUP team. Your remarkable efforts will have an impact on our district for generations to come. Thank you. We are forever grateful for the parents and the volunteers who continue to partner with our district and community. So as the Board of Directors would also like to present you.
Cool. Well, I guess I'll grab this now. Thanks, everyone. Do this. Yeah, does this have a lips on it? So really, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, everyone here tonight. To go through the list of all the names would have all the people who put their heart and soul into this would, oh, here we go.
Butler.
Hold it together. As you can see, it would take too long, and I get a little emotional about it. So I'll speak a little quickly and in a little bit more generalities. But again, take a look around at all of the people that have been involved in this tremendous effort, and the groundwork was laid years ago with so many efforts, 6 efforts, and finally bring it across the finish line. Some people have been there the entire time. Some of us, this was our first time, second time, third time. But it took the entire community. So it was pretty incredible. I won't go through all our statistics, but they are impressive too. So check out our Facebook post that has all of the statistics of the doorbelling and the door knocking and the flyers and the mailers and everything else that we put into this. It's pretty tremendous. So in reflecting about the campaign and everything that went into it, I'm sure many of you who were involved have gotten the question about what was different this time, and I don't think there is a good singular answer, but I think it is literally the hundreds of small things that we did differently, and each of those things was a product of all of you and all of these people who brought that small degree of change and that little bit of expertise that pushed us across the line this time. So again, it's 100% the result of everyone in this room, of our preparation, of our learning from the last several times, particularly last April, where we got that close, and standing up yet again for our schools. A favorite quote of mine, General Colin Powell said that perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. I do like that quote because I absolutely believe it. And so I do want to give some much deserved credit to the optimism that Dr. Jarvis inspired in our community and in our team.
You offered a really comprehensive and clear analysis that really revealed the depth and complexity of our facility situation, and then the package itself, the clarity, the first step of what we need to do and how we can get ourselves back on the track to be where we should be, and our kids and our schools and our teachers deserve our facilities to be, was really remarkable. And to do this, again, the hours that you and your team and the board and people put in over the last 4 months to achieve this was remarkable, and particularly you as the outsider getting the crash course in the wide range of our district opinions and politics, and it was really something, and to watch you navigate that with humility, with grace, but always with articulate facts, and never taking an eye off the focus was really inspiring. So thank you for that. So on behalf of our team and the community, I offer our deepest appreciation to your leadership, and we have something for you. So I don't know how many of you all received this. It should be about 7,000 people. But this was actually, I saw Bob Anderson earlier. One of the things we did differently in this campaign was, because we have such a huge geographically dispersed area that we just can't get to face, we launched a really broad, comprehensive postcard writing campaign. And we had so many people participate in that. It was truly amazing. And this was one of the postcards that we sent out. And yeah,
the artist. And the artist.
Yeah, okay, a little biased. I love the artwork. It was my daughter. Second grader at Minter Creek. But really what I love about it is it's this, you know, the kids get it. Kids understand what a learning environment can do. It reflects the joy that so many of our students have at our schools. That's a reflection of the teachers and the broader community around them. And so when I asked her to sit down and draw this postcard and help us with this, she was so excited to do that. And I don't think she's alone in that enthusiasm of her vision of what our schools are, and even better, what they can be. You know, I don't know how many people are excited about a compost bin full of worms, but she thinks there's a place for that. Giant playground, giant, and for some reason, in the science rooms, there's a lot of explosions and a lot of hands in the air. But, you know, hopefully that reveals a lot of the optimism that the kids have, and the love of learning that they get every day at our schools. So anyway, thank you. So anyway, just quickly, I'll wrap it up. So now is actually the fun time and the real work, right? So, you know, put the construction and school architect hat on, and the result of our collective efforts, I really do think it's a true assessment that our community is more engaged and paying closer attention to our schools than they have ever before. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity that we all have here to capitalize on this energy, to leverage this energy, and work together as partners with the district and the larger community to really go forward and keep a clear focus on delivering these 4 schools. It's a really exciting time, and there's a few of us who have had many years of experience with school design and construction and have seen it before, but I think it is important to keep in the forefront of all of our minds that the vast majority of us have never seen that, of our community has never seen this before. And it can be a bit daunting, it can be a bit challenging, and in the absence of understanding, like, how do you possibly go from where we are now to in 2 years having 4 schools, I can't overemphasize enough the need to have very clear communication and articulation opportunities for our community to be able to understand that process. And I know we can do it, so I just would like to see us do that with the same gusto and commitment that we did throughout the campaign. And I'd love to challenge those design teams when the RFPs go out to ask them the hard questions about how can they offer their assistance and their expertise in communicating that process to our community. So that said, we're ready, our community is ready, as demonstrated through our campaign efforts, time to roll up our sleeves, get to work, and thank you all so much again for your leadership. And one more suggestion, I'd like you to consider potentially one of the new schools, their colors being yellow and black. Good colors, solid colors, gold and black. Gold and black. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, and again, thanks to the entire sub team and to Dr. Jarvis. And I would then like to move on to 4.22, which is an extension of Dr. Jarvis and what he's done for our district. He has an entire staff under him that has been instrumental in making this happen as well. So, as well, the Board of Directors would like to recognize. Still going to read though. On behalf of the Board of Directors, we would like to thank the district staff for their successful efforts in securing funding for our school's facility. Recognizing this accomplishment represents years and years and years of work by current and past staffs. Our district continues to deliver an exceptional educational experience for our students, regardless of the resources available and the conditions of our facilities. I am thrilled for the things to come with more appropriate and adequate learning spaces. This is an exciting time for the Peninsula School District, and I look forward to the district continuing to engage our staff and community throughout the process. There is more work ahead of you, and for all of us. Through the leadership of Superintendent Dr. Jarvis, I am confident we will provide the learning spaces that reflect our great schools and great community. So again, I'd like to thank our district staff. The board has a token just to remember this big effort for Dan, for John, for Karen, for Chris Pagel, and share those with your teams because I know you. For art, but I know you have for art. You have teams underneath you that also worked very hard on this, so please thank them on our behalf. And then also, where'd the little guy go? Couldn't have done it without Brooke. Thank you again. Okay. So as the agenda was amended, Leslie, item 9 was moved to follow item 4. So at this time, I'd like to ask for comments from Superintendent's report from Dr. Jarvis.
Thank you, President Christian Dawson. In the spirit of the conversation that we've just been having and the recognition of the significance of this passage of the bond on the Peninsula School District, I would like to read a statement. The bond proposal submitted to the board in October focused almost exclusively on the issue of elementary school overcrowding and the shortage of classrooms. The proposed issue that emerged was to construct 4 new facilities, 2 of which would be additions to the current 8 elementary schools, with the other 2 buildings being enlarged replacements for our 2 oldest facilities. In total, the proposed bond added over 50% additional permanent classrooms to the district. It was emphasized at the time that our situation was critical. We needed more classrooms immediately, and adding portable classrooms was no longer an option. The new schools would provide a long-term remedy by 2021 and 2022, but the fall of 2019 and 2020 would still be problematic. The subsequent purchase of the Boys and Girls Club in January added a new element in planning for school number 10. Because the facility contained 9 classrooms already, we now had the option to immediately open school number 10 as a smaller school in 2019 and grow it to full size in 2 years with a classroom addition. The thinking called for full mobilization upon the approval of the bond and the occupancy in the fall. In essence, that called for quick action and the shaping of the school this spring. A second element that emerged with the purchase of this facility was the question of how best to serve the district as a whole with school number 10 in this location. We already knew that with boundary adjustments, number 9 would alleviate the significant overcrowding at Discovery Elementary School in particular. Additional relief would be experienced at Purdy and Harbor Heights, but to a lesser degree. The need to relieve pressure more broadly throughout the district led to the determination that the solution of massive boundary adjustments from end to end in the school district was not the answer. Instead, the concept of adding a school of choice to the system and allowing parents to opt in or stay in their neighborhood schools was seen as a viable option. That triggered a process to look at the options that could be best initiated in the short time available. Options considered: a STEAM school, a school of the arts, or a community-based school, were quickly mobilized to enable the next steps of leadership and staffing. Harkening back to the beginning, however, the short-term housing shortage remained. 7 to 10 additional classrooms are still needed to relieve the overcrowding, particularly at Discovery Elementary School. Utilizing the concept of a pyramid of intervention, the district had determined the specific locations in which more classrooms are needed and the possible remedies. The next level of solution required an examination of potential actions such as moving or eliminating programs to create space. The district review of the placement of optional early childhood programs, highly capable programs, and others resulted in the consideration of altering the use of some classrooms at Henderson Bay to serve elementary students. That would entail controlling the number of students entering Henderson Bay High School for 1 or 2 years in order to assure adequate space for the currently enrolled students there. It would also provide the district an opportunity to review the Henderson Bay High School service model and make any necessary adjustments. Revising Henderson Bay High School space for relief of elementary school overcrowding would take the form of dedicating the first floor space of 8 classrooms to elementary students while maintaining the 6 second floor rooms for Henderson Bay High School. The district then reached out seeking to determine whether the STEAM, the arts, or the community themes were preferred. It is evident that there is in fact great interest in that question, but it is also evident that there are others who feel they would benefit from more time and opportunity to consider the concepts and the processes. The district similarly shared the potential plans for sharing Henderson Bay High School. There's an old saying to be careful when assisting somebody across the street. First, make sure they want to go. Confusion and concern has been voiced by some parents and others regarding the plans and the recommendations. Unfortunately, some of the concerns have even taken the form of personal attacks and allegations. This seems to be a reminder that change can be difficult, even when it is seemingly a well-founded search for solutions to vexing issues. The problems and the solutions are too significant to become lost in rancor. In many ways, they represent the dreams and the future for the district. There's probably no solution that will please everyone, but we can use the time and the opportunity to ensure the actions truly represent our best thinking. I'm making a recommendation to the board to slow the process and broaden the discussion about themes for school number 10. That may well prevent the district from implementing a school of choice this fall or later. Regardless, I would recommend that item number 7.7 be withdrawn this evening, and the broader discussion of options available to the district for school number 10 be moved to our March 7th board session with no action requested at that meeting. Pure study and discussion. Likewise, I'm recommending that item number 7.9 regarding the short-term space in Henderson Bay High School be withdrawn to look at the full range of options available to us for short-term solutions to our overcrowding. I would state unequivocally that consideration of mixing younger children with older children does not negate the possible solution of Henderson Bay High School classrooms, but I would again recommend broadening the conversation and the solution set. March 7 will also be the target to discuss framing this issue and reviewing the alternatives. Any action would be only considered at a later date. I thank you for listening to my comments this evening. I would close with my thoughts that this community will have many chances to grapple with tough issues and issues of change. This is just one of those opportunities to test how well we can collaborate to ensure a great school district for our children. I have confidence the end product will be extraordinary, and I say thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jarvis. So we will now move on and ask for comments from our student representatives, and we'll start with Casey from Henderson Bay High School.
Hello, everybody. I'm Casey. I'm a senior at Henderson Bay High School. I just want to say Henderson Bay has been thrown through a lot of loops this year, starting big picture and, of course, with the housing plan for our elementary schools. But I believe we're striving, especially at this semester. We were handed a lot of new students, and but a lot of great things are coming out of it, and we're excited to continue.
My name is Emily, and I'm from Gig Harbor High School. So I just wanted to highlight a few of the things we have going on at high school right now. And first, we just implemented a new club called the E-Game Club. And it's basically just like a tournament of video games, but our school's partnering with TCC and offering scholarship opportunities for the kids that participate in that club. Currently, coming up in March, we have Mad Week coming up, which is our Make a Difference Week led by our leadership class. Then March 26th, we have our Mr. Gig Harbor Senior Boys Pageant, which would be kind of entertaining for you guys to attend. And finally, we have our Interact Club holding a fundraiser this week. It's a change drive in our second periods, and all of the change at the end of the week will be donated to the American Heart Association.
Thanks, Emily. And support.
Hello, I am Zipporah from Peninsula High School. And it's a long list, but I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible because Peninsula has a lot of things going on. To start off, I just like to say that our diversity assembly, I want to say that I think it went great to start off. There's a lot of teachers who got a lot of insight from it and who were more concerned about how they were approaching things that they heard in school. It also happens to be shared a lot at Peninsula, so we have compliment cards on our wall, and we have about like 2,000 right now, and upcoming more. Our girls basketball team sadly just lost, but they did so good. They made it to state. I am so proud of them. It was actually 54-60, so it was super close. We had like maybe 2 or 3 route buses go over to Tacoma Dome, and our school just showed so much love. We have a DECA state competition. We have 7 kids going there. We have a classified staff week, which is next week actually, and also next week, the choir, some of the choir kids, we're going to Chicago, which would be pretty fun, and we're going to go sing in a very nice place that I cannot tell you the name of right now because I don't recall, but I will recall that someday. Knowledge Bowl is also going to state. We're going to have our spring formal. Peninsula is also having a little cute thing too, Mr. Peninsula, which is very similar to Gig Harbor's Mr. Gig Harbor, I think so. And I just like to sum up saying that Peninsula is doing great, and I think that our sports are thriving. I think our students are thriving, and I just cannot wait to, okay. I just like to say not most importantly, but a very honorable, huge mention I think that I just might as well just throw out there. Peninsula musical theater. It's gonna be intense. We're doing this play called Once on This Island. I'm not just saying that because I just got casted like today. Throw that out there. It's gonna be great. You guys should come see it. It's gonna be in May. But yeah, thank you.
All of you, and Sephora, I heard you had quite a poem at the diversity assembly, so thanks for sharing that with them, the students. It's quite impactful. Okay, we will move on to comments from the community. Members of the audience wishing to speak to the board during this time are asked to identify themselves for the record before addressing the board. In the interest of fairness, there is a 3-minute time limit. We ask that statements not be personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Please note that this is an opportunity to speak to the board, and the board will listen but not offer a response. Thank you for respecting these guidelines. And we will start, got a list here. We will start with Barry McDougall.
My name is Barry McDougall. I teach 3rd grade at Purdy Elementary. I'd like to start by saying I thank the board and Dr. Jarvis for making the decision to slow things down. I love the idea to purchase the Boys and Girls Club because it provides us with instant access to classrooms. I love the idea that the elementary school, number 10, will be a school of choice. With both Discovery and this school being so close together, there needs to be something that separates the two and makes them different, but not in September of 2019. We received emails from ARD on February 1st talking about the dramatic shortage of classroom space. PSD, latest news from PSD on January 31st was the bond issue on the ballot on February 12th is intended to address the severe overcrowding in the district's 8 elementary schools. When Art came and talked to us in September as a staff, he mentioned that one of the schools potentially would be a school of choice. But I don't think anybody sitting in my staff room at that point in time thought that the school of choice was going to be a priority, and we assumed that the priority was going to be dealing with the overcrowding in our classrooms. I believe the perception of teachers, parents, and community members as well was addressing the overcrowding. It's what we talked about, it's what we went door to door about, it's what we doorbelled about, it's what we wrote letters about, what we did, everything addressed the issue of overcrowding. I listened to 3 officials from the district mention that the parent meeting Monday night that the school of choice would not alleviate overcrowding. So if we're not dealing with overcrowding, why are we making the choice now? I and many of my fellow teachers at Purdy threw out the phrase bait and switch because it feels like what was described and what was happening were not the same things we talked about and learned about and listened to and approved and applauded coming forward. It's a great idea, but not in September of 2019. The proposal to move Discovery students to Henderson Bay High School to ease overcrowding and starting a new choice school just didn't seem like the greatest choice you could possibly make. Mixing elementary school students and high school students is not an appropriate decision, and I'm glad to see that we're going to consider some other things. More than a decade ago, and some of us have been around a lot longer than that, we lost the support of this community because the perception in town was the fact that things that had been done before were not followed through, they weren't transparent, we had not done what we said we would do, and we lost the support of the community, and we had fought for 15 years to get that support back. And my fear is, and the fear of many of us who work across the street, is that we just got support, we just got 66%, and we're building the bridges we just built to do something that doesn't sound like what we want to do. We worked way too hard, we spent way too much time doing this. We sent out postcards, we drove, we talked, we walked, we called. So much time and effort went into this that we can't afford to make a mistake now and not come out and support and move to take care of overcrowded classrooms. Your first step after passing a bond should deal with the overcrowding of elementary schools, which is what people felt like they were told, and that should be our first order of business.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next is Jennifer Hansel.
Cancel. Cancel. Oh, I'm sorry. Cancel. I thought sorry.
Lots of Jennifers. It's okay. Thanks, Jennifer.
My bad.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hansel. I'm a teacher at Henderson Bay High School. And I wanted to come and make sure that there was a voice to speak on behalf of my students. This news has caught a lot of us, put a lot of us in an anxious position, not knowing what's coming. And I know a lot of the focus is on overcrowding in elementary schools and building new elementary schools, and I didn't want my students to get lost. I'm here to speak up for their safety and the protection of their education. And I really appreciate our superintendent's recommendation to postpone decisions. I believe that's the right choice. I came with concerns for feeling like this decision felt rushed, fear that my students that their safety and maybe the safety of other students would not be planned for as well as they could. When I hear plans for how the building's going to be used, I know that that's going to come with consequences for support staff availability, building use, use of the commons, common spaces, the art room, things like that. And so I guess I'll kind of withdraw a lot of my opinion and just say thank you. Thank you for giving us more time. As a teacher at Henderson Bay, and I'll speak for myself, I feel like we have a lot left to discuss, and I want to be included in that, and I know my colleagues want to be included in that. Coming to today, I felt like I hadn't been included in that. I heard from people at the district that things weren't sure yet, things weren't certain, and then at the same time heard information presented to the community regarding what parts of the building would be used, how many classes would be used, and I was not a part of those conversations. My colleagues were not a part of those conversations. So thank you for giving us a chance to have those discussions before decisions are made. My other concern as an educator is what's kind of been said before, but this idea of bait and switch. As an educator, and I haven't been here for a full decade, or plus like some, I've seen the exhaustion in my colleagues' faces as we've worked so hard to gain our community's trust and our community's support. And I have worked really hard the last couple of years on the bonds as well to spread support. And then to see the things being said amongst the community and amongst staff members in our schools as they feel like information has been rushed forward without consideration of our community, terms like bait and switch. That's really scary, and frankly has shaken my trust a little bit as well as our communities. And we don't have the luxury of going there. I don't want to risk that for our students. So thank you again, not only for the Henderson Bay decision, but also for the theme school and putting that off till we have some more clarity. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, Mary Beth Bean. Mary Beth Bean. Pretty.
I'm Mary Beth Bean, and I'm a fourth grade teacher at Purdy Elementary. I'm just going to kind of read from this because I just kind of came up with what I thought would be sensible. Alleviate overcrowding at Discovery Elementary, first by shifting a segment of its population to school number 10. This would give the district time to do its due diligence in planning a choice school. It will give the district time to canvass the school community and gauge the interest families have in sending their students there. We can take the time we need to plan and acquire curriculum, hire administrators, teachers, and staff who will be the best fit for the school once it is chosen, and to develop a plan for transportation. In this time, we might even find this space or location is not ideal for the choice school option. We might find we don't have enough families from the farthest regions of the district willing to transport their students to the school or interested in sending them so far away, thus negating the equal opportunity choice schools are meant to provide. In this time, we might have the opportunity to formulate a plan for a school that best serves our students and our families. To throw together in 6 months a school that would be vastly new for our district appears impulsive. I received an email, Google form seeking my recommendation for a theme for this choice school. The form stated, "We value input from our community and the desire to bring this dream to a reality. We did not pass the school bond in February on the basis of this dream. We passed it on the reality of overcrowded schools. A choice school was not mentioned when the pending purchase of the Boys and Girls Club was announced. Claims that this type of school could alleviate overcrowding for all schools, all elementary schools, seem at the very least speculative. I asked the board to give our district time to do this right, alleviate overcrowding at Discovery first, not by sending its fourth graders to a high school building, which could have negative impact on both groups of students, and not by busing them to Artendale and Purdy, as we are currently doing. Give them a space of their own, then examine all options for the future. Don't rush into a choice school. Do your research. Seek genuine involvement and input from our school community. Seek long-term, logical solutions to overcrowding. Please do what's best for Peninsula School District students and what we promised our voters we would do if the bond passed. Thank you.
So there is another Jennifer. You're good?
I'm good.
Good.
Sorry.
So, Kim and Brian Besley. They liked our message. April Kohler.
Hello, my name is April Kohler, and I'm a parent of Discovery Elementary students. Thank you, Dr. Jarvis, for your recommendation this evening. I hope it's approved. I'm not sure what the process is for that, but I completely echo everything I believe it was Mary Beth just said. I would truly like to see Discovery overcrowding be relieved, which, you know, we've talked about. The overcrowding was the primary purpose of the bond. I think the idea to make it a choice school that would be implemented this fall is incredibly rushed, and I was quite shocked to find out about it on a random Facebook post. I don't think that's the way we should be receiving our information. You know, as others have alluded to, certainly it's best to be transparent and to be articulate and to communicate as much as possible in order not to lose the trust and the excitement, you know, that we've built over these last couple of months. It's already become a little bit divisive, and it would be just a shame to lose the momentum that we've had. So, like I said, I won't repeat everything she said, that I agree with everything she said, and I do hope that you will please postpone this decision and get some more input and allow for some more feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, April. Okay, Sarah Erickson.
Hi, I'm Sarah Erickson. I also have Discovery Elementary and Harbor Heights Middle School children, and again, I just wanted to be a voice for parents, and I could really echo what everybody else has just said, so I'll be brief, but yeah, my word is just blindsided that I felt like the new latest idea of the Henderson Bay High School, sending Discovery kids there, was just a shock that I hadn't heard of. I also heard about it just on a Facebook thread. And I know just from talking to parents over the past couple days, I'm confident that a majority of parents out there still have not heard this idea. So it seems like it would be rash and just frankly irresponsible to make a big decision like that hurriedly, and when so much of the community is uninformed about it and probably feeling misled about it. So thank you for your time and for all you do, and thank you for stepping back to give us more time for discussion and consideration.
Thanks, Deb Bruckner.
Good evening. Deb Bruckner. I'm a 43-year resident of the community and a teacher at Purdy for the last 19 years. I was very relieved to hear Dr. Jarvis's recommendation, and I'm here to advocate for the people that had all these questions. So we've got parents for the students, for the teachers, for the community. And I wanted to advocate for people who have the questions and we're having the discussions, because that's what makes our community strong. So we had, no, we didn't feel like there were many answers out there, and the perception was that you were shut down. And frankly, that was very uncomfortable. And people were not did not feel like they were heard. They felt like, I don't know anything, they must know everything, and they must know it better. So, I know that's not proper English, but that's kind of how I feel. So, I'd like to advocate for the people, all of these people. They're here asking questions and having discussions. Because I think that's what the school board wants us to do, but I wasn't sure. So, I don't think you want a community that just lays back and doesn't say or do anything or have any discussions. We are holding you accountable, and that's why we're asking these questions. So my hope is that the next time this happens, and it will, right? We've seen these patterns before, that the communication is more transparent, it's open, it's in a logical sequence. Because some people heard about this on Facebook. That is not the place to hear about this, especially parents of Discovery students or Henderson Bay students. And that there is an open mind. So if you're listening to us, please have an open mind. We are concerned, we support our community, we support our students, and that's why we're bugging you about this. And that's what's going to make us stronger. So please accept our discussions, our questions, and these patterns. It's for our students.
Thanks, Deb. And Lynn Sebring.
Hi, my name is Lynn Sebring. I have been a member of this community for, well, since 2000. I've had students in these schools since 1999. So I've gone through a variety of the schools. I have watched this community grow by leaps and bounds. I have seen the struggles that we have had passing bonds and levies. So the fact that we passed this is amazing. And I'm very excited to hear that we are potentially going to take a step back and consider our options more carefully and more in depth, because currently I have students in Discovery and at Goodman Middle School. And I was concerned when I heard via Facebook, because apparently that's how we get our news, that we were going to be potentially having a grade of our students over at Henderson Bay. I don't feel as though it's appropriate to have elementary students and high school students sharing a building. More importantly, I'm concerned that the community is going to see the potential for a choice school not alleviating the overcrowding issue, which is what my understanding was the bond was focused on, was alleviating the overcrowding. So I'm worried that if we had rushed ahead and had a choice school start in the fall of 2019, that the community would feel somewhat deceived. I understand that's a strong word, but that's my concern. And that moving forward, the next time we had bonds, we would be again unsuccessful and we would go through this struggle of building the community trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Amy Perrin.
Hello, I'm Amy Perrine, and I am a second grade teacher at Discovery. Before that, I was at Purdy for 16 years. I have a tendency to go to schools that are overcrowded, so. But what I'd like to talk about, and I do appreciate the decision to postpone what we're going to do about addressing the overcrowding at Discovery and all our other schools. But I'd like to also just put in a word for logistics. Having, taking a group of students from one school away from their main campus and putting them off campus is really difficult. And I can speak to this because for the first few weeks in September, I was a second grade teacher who walked 100 second graders back and forth between the Boys and Girls Club and Discovery. I'd like to say that it took the entire staff of Discovery pulling together to help, and also we had amazing support from the district office. But we knew we could do it because it was a short-term solution. And looking at doing that all year long with a group of students is trying not only for the teachers and students, but for the rest of the building, because you lose connection with other students and your colleagues. Also, by the time you walk a student back and forth, even one time between the two buildings, that they are toast for the rest of the day, no matter how engaging your lessons are. And you're also losing instruction time because the students, because of busing, and unless that's addressed, that's something to think about, our students came in late and we had to leave early to get from the Boys and Girls Club back to Discovery. So I appreciate you thinking about that. I'd also like to say that I've had a student from Henderson Bay in my class this year, and I have no concerns about the populations mixing because she was an amazing student who showed dedication and caring and concern for my second graders. So it's just more logistics that I'm concerned about. The only good thing that came about of it was my Fitbit goals were exceeded, and Mr. Brooks over there gained skills to be a bicycle messenger in his retirement.
Okay, Lauren Struck. Sorry. Take a pen.
Oh, I didn't need to sign in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Laura. Hi, Laura.
I just saw the side of you, so I just
Thank you. Michelle Todd.
Hi, I'm Michelle Todd. Kind of feel like I don't have to say that. But, so it's kind of funny in this evening. I echo what everyone else has said, so I don't want to repeat. But some ideas came to mind. I came in thinking, okay, let's plead the case, because when I'm thinking about the overcrowding, which is what the bond was for, I get it's a big deal to try to appeal to everybody to make it work. And when I was just thinking of ideas of what could cause the least amount of stress, the least amount of change, and make everybody happy. And so my first thought, I was gonna come in and be like, oh, you should just make the new school, well, it's being built out and the other schools are being built, possibly just putting in 5th grade. Because, I mean, those are the older kids, they could all go to one school, you could take the 4 classes from Purdy, you could take the 3 from Discovery, and that gives immediate classrooms to those schools. You could also draw on some, from some other ones, because there's 9 classrooms, correct, at the new school. So you could have some people do a choice if they wanted to send their 5th grader there. But in hearing the teacher from Henderson Bay, I'm kind of curious if the new school would fit the Henderson Bay students, and in the meantime, use all of Henderson Bay to alleviate overcrowding for some of the elementary schools. I don't know if she's still here, or if that would be a good fit, or something that they would like. But just in her presentation, so everyone's, not getting jumbled together and different classes mixing, I thought maybe that might be a viable option. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And then Laurel Kingsbury.
Hi, I'm Laurel Kingsbury. I've met most of you earlier when I was one of the candidates for the district position that Lori fills. Lori, I don't think I met you. It's nice to meet you. And Dr. Jarvis, I haven't met you yet, but I really appreciate fully how you've come in and sort of spearheaded or galvanized our community and led us forward in this group community effort to get the bond passed. And I just am so grateful and thankful to the board and to everybody for that In the meantime, as I'm not on the board, I'm still tutoring, and I was substituting, but now I'm working part-time as a teacher at Discovery. I started there in November, and I just feel so excited to be a part of that community. It is such a positive staff experience there at Discovery, in spite of this overcrowdedness, and I personally was really blown away with how impactful the massive amounts of kids are there in that building. It is really a challenge, I think, for the kids there and for the staff, but in spite of that, it's such a positive school and a great, really good, I believe, strong learning experience. But I'm here tonight to say that I echo almost everything that has been said. My first thought was so excited. I am still excited at the purchase of the Boys and Girls Club. I think that was an awesome move and really exciting. But I initially thought that that was going to help relieve this intense overcrowding that's happening at Discovery. And I kind of want to reiterate what Amy said. I'm thinking of the logistics of moving part of Discovery over to Henderson Bay or anywhere else. It really, I think, would impact even the minutes of teaching and instruction for the kids, just the transportation. I'm a specialist, and so for me as a teacher, I had a half an hour to work with some of these kids to work on their math skills. And the kids that are coming from the portables in 4th grade isn't that far from where I am, but it still takes about 4 or 5 minutes just to get from the portables to my classroom or my space, and that really affects my time. I can't imagine having to go all the way across to another building. I think that would really cut into the actual instructional time with these kids. But I also had the same idea as the last speaker. I was wondering, is it a possibility to maybe move the Henderson Bay over to the Boys and Girls Club, and then use the Henderson Bay building as another school? That sort of was a thought. I thought, well, there's more classrooms there. Somehow that could work out as sort of, I'm sure you guys have thought of that or something, but I thought that's also an interesting idea. But anyway, I'm very excited for the passing of the bond, and I appreciate all of your guys' hard work.
Thank you all. That is it on the list. Anybody else? Good, thank you. And I'm just going to state your name, and I'm going to need some information afterwards.
Hi, my name is David Hartley, and I am a father of 2 daughters, one at Henderson Bay and another at Kopachuk. And I want to thank you first for deciding to kind of take a step back and kind of rethink the strategies involved in alleviating some of the pressure. My story is a personal one. I have a daughter who is a sophomore at Henderson Bay. This is her first year there. Last year she attended Gig Harbor High School and struggled immensely. Henderson Bay has provided through the Big Picture program many different opportunities for her to grow, and she's actually now excelling. And it makes me very happy as her father to see that she is now actually excited to go to school every day. And the Big Picture program there has also allowed her to volunteer at Discovery, so she has come away with a lot of good pictures and ideas from the school as well. And she's done so well that she's actually been asked to go to Gig Harbor and Peninsula High Schools to talk to students there about joining Henderson Bay, those that struggle there. And she does have, last year she exhibited some challenges with anxiety with the overcrowding that we see at the high schools, and the lack of attention that she felt that she was getting from teachers. And to see that improvement is fantastic. And I mentioned her younger sister, who is an 8th grader at Kopachuk. She's seen these strides that she's taken at Henderson Bay, and now she has decided that she wants to actually go to Henderson Bay next year, because she feels the same thing that her older sister feels, that there is a lot of overcrowding at Peninsula and Gig Harbor, and has, when she heard about the possibility of Henderson Bay not accepting students for next year and the year after, she was immediately distraught. And she just said, I am flat out not going to go to Gig Harbor or Peninsula. So one of the rumors that we have heard as parents at Henderson Bay is that enrollment is going to be curtailed and that new students will not be allowed to enroll. And I think that we need to kind of rethink that also because students like my younger daughter are going to be dramatically affected as well. And we really don't have any other options for students who struggle and who are at risk in this district. The only other options that we have are maybe to go out to another school, like maybe an online school such as an Insight or a WAVA or something like of that nature. And we've tried that before. And it did not meet their needs and did not suit their learning styles. The Big Picture program at Henderson Bay suits my oldest daughter's learning style perfectly to a T. And I think it would actually dramatically help both of my daughters. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And then I'm going to have you sign this with Bob Anderson.
I apologize. I wasn't going to speak, but I have something to add. First of all, I want to thank the board for listening, but more important than listening, responding to what you heard. That's vitally important, and it will and should happen again and again and again. But I also have been a volunteer at Henderson Bay High School for the past 4 years and love the school and love the students. And I want to say the idea that there's a risk mixing high school students with elementary school students may not fit my thinking, at least. I have 2 grandchildren at Discovery. But Henderson Bay had a daycare center up to now. I graduated in a high school and an elementary school and a middle school that had everybody together for 12 years. You know, a large number of Washington rural schools have students together for 12 years. And I've done a lot of traveling around the world, and I know many, many countries believe much more in the concept of community schools than we do. And community schools means you mix elementary students, middle school students, and high schools that are in the same community together. So those are all things to think about for the future, but we shouldn't get so excited to think that our teenage kids can't interact with our elementary school kids.
Bob and I also have you sign. Last call on that? Great. Okay, we will move on to new business, and we'll start with 7.1 election results.
Earlier, I presented to Jennifer Butler the official return that came in dated the 22nd of February by the canvassing department of elections for Pierce County. And it is our great pleasure to officially enter into the record that our bond issue proposition number 1, the $190,550,000 has passed with 66.59% of the vote, and it is thrilling to be able to say that. I did look, just that little competitive piece, somewhere in the state, I think it was Ephrata, there was one district that had slightly more than we did as far as, but we were second in the state of Washington for bond issues and the percentage of support. Thank you, Peninsula Community. Requires no action by the board. Information.
Excellent. Thank you and congratulations. All of us. Okay, 7.2 study and survey. We'll go to the 2 resolutions.
One of the formal pieces of the interaction between a school district and the state of Washington. It revolves around getting any state assistance that might be available to the school district. Some refer to that as state match. In our case, $7 million from the state and 198 from the local school district doesn't strike me as a match. But it's certainly well worth going through the process. So part of that process of the D forms and exchange is to submit a study and survey at the very beginning level of the D form, and we are submitting our study and survey and completing that. It will require action of the board on the two resolutions. Resolution 1902 is that we have approached all the neighboring districts by state requirement, asked them if they have any schools that we could use, and they did not. So we get to certify that we have done that. And resolution 1903 would be to then adopt the study and survey so that it may be submitted to the Office of the State Superintendent for the beginnings of the D-form process. I would recommend passage of the resolution 1902 and 1903.
They need to be separate motions? Yes. Okay. I'll vote approval of resolution number 19.02.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Okay, it's been moved by Marcia and seconded by Leslie to adopt resolution 1902. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has been approved. So then, 1903?
I'll move approval of resolution 1903.
Is there a second? Second. And is there any discussion prior to the vote?
Yes, I have some discussion. I was just delighted to see the study and survey, which I've been hoping to see for some time. And I would like to dispel the rumors in the community that our facilities are not well maintained. When you look at the building scores, it's clear that we have not ignored them. And the board, our board and boards before us invested in keeping our schools maintained, and we've spent a lot of money doing that. It doesn't mean that things don't need to be brought up to grade, and what's in this bond issue to start with alleviating the space issue is absolutely necessary. But I'd like to give kudos to Patrick and to his staff and to Karen, and recognize that fact because of some of what's been said in the community over the last couple of years.
Anyone else? Comments about? I echo that. Was happy to see those numbers, and it confirmed in my mind as well that we do invest in our schools, and we're making the best of what we have. And so congratulations, district, and thank you.
And I seldom seen, I told Art when I looked at those, this is really good, you know, in terms of a compliment of what we're doing in Peninsula and actually not recognizing.
And thank you for recognizing past board efforts. Okay, with that, is there a motion to approve resolution 1903 adopting the study?
Already did.
Oh, and we discussed it, and so it's been moved by Marcia and seconded by.
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't voted yet. I know that. I know that. And it was seconded by Lori, and so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? It is also been approved. I knew us. Not that crazy. Okay, we will then move on to 7.3, project management recommendation. Art and Karen.
It is our pleasure, and this is a huge step for us. I've used the phrase that we get 15 seconds to celebrate, and then the rest starts to work, and we are there. So we sent out a request for qualifications for our project management services. And a quick background to that is that a school district that is going to build buildings needs project management and needs professional assistance. One of the options is to try to do it ourselves, and that suggestion only lasted about a second and a half as we looked around, and we went out for professional assistance with professional management firms. We received qualifications from 9 firms for our RFQ, request for qualifications, and we selected 3 to interview. We conducted interviews yesterday, Wednesday morning, February 27th. The interview panel was Patrick Gillespie, Karen Anderson, Vicki Smith, myself, and board president. It was an engaging process where the firms each presented for roughly a half hour their qualifications and the staff with whom we would be working. And we then probed for approximately a half hour with those firms. All three firms presented well, and the dialogue was excellent to the process, but we also came to a conclusion and a consensus and brought forth a recommendation to the board to negotiate a contract with a firm called Green Gas Away for project management services. So we're not asking the board at this point to approve the contract. What we're asking you to approve is the selection that allows us to proceed and try to negotiate a contract with Green Gas Away for our project management services.
Which will come back to us?
Pardon me? Yes.
The contract.
That will come back to you. Those services will represent, will be the professional assistance to the district for all 4 building projects as we launch those. So they'll do that control process with us, and I would recommend approval of Green Gas Away.
Can we discuss it for a second?
Do we do, do we have to vote on this? Or just?
I would ask for approval, whatever way you would like to do that. A vote would be best.
Okay, so then I guess we ask for the motion first before we have discussion. So is there a motion to approve the district to move forward with negotiation contract with Green Gas Away to be presented back to the board?
I'm kind of where David is. I have questions to ask before.
Well, we won't vote on it.
Yeah, we will.
Well, we won't vote on it until the discussions happen. We'd like to have the discussions. Would we, okay, so then I'm going to open it up to discussions.
Okay.
And then potentially move on from that. Okay?
David was first.
I'd just like to, if you could, since most of us weren't part of the interview process, you had quite a few candidates that submitted their qualifications. You broke it down to 3. Could you just provide a little insight as to, either one of you, how it doesn't matter, what you used to reduce it down to the 3 that you picked, and then what allowed Green Gas Away to stand out over the other 2? I'll explain why in a minute.
Sure. I think it's a very fair question. The screening of the 9 applicants, really the first screening was to take a look and try to determine the capacity of each of those firms to do the level of work we're doing. Several of those, without quantifying that, really had never done 4 major projects that we have and would not have had the staff to represent. That was the biggest single divider, was recognizing who the staff was, what projects they have done. We were then able to review in their proposals the current work that they're engaged in and what we would be competing with. So if we hired a firm and they're already doing 3 schools, 3 districts, did they have enough manpower or person power to be able to do that? The second, so the size of the project, the size of the team, what we could see in terms of references for on time, on budget, and being able to have the technical assistance to do what we wanted. So we ended up going with, I believe, the 3 firms that had the significant capacity and have done this kind of project at this scale and can do, in essence, 4 projects at once.
So the basis for interviewing people was that the firms would do all 4 projects and not that we would new construction and renovation.
We didn't decide that was the only solution, but that was one of the, we were looking to see what capacity they had. We it's an interesting, let's call it philosophy, but we didn't want to end up with our own projects competing with each other. for project management and architects and expenditures and contractors. We did consider whether or not we would be better off with 2 or 3, or I don't think we ever considered 4 actual project managers. And we came to the conclusion that we were better off with, given the nature of our projects, that differentiating at the architect level, where we may well go with an architect who works with the 2 Pierce County projects, and then a different architect that would work with the Gig Harbor projects, because of they're working with the entities that all the permitting agencies. But as far as the management side, we pulled that back and decided by far our best option was to keep that at 1 firm.
And then, can I have a second question?
Absolutely.
Following up, and the district has had very authentic work with Green Gasaway on a number of projects across town, and also with some others, there are other firms. In the interview process, did you identify within the firm who would be the lead project manager on each of the projects?
And we did everything but tattoo them as number 1, number 2, and number 3, and what they did. I don't mean to make light of that. That was a major concern of ours, to know that we weren't getting a sales pitch from one person and then we would have somebody else working on the project. So yes, and I can identify that, but really it belongs to the whole firm, and they do assign it, but they identified specifically the people we would be working with, and we know exactly who that team is.
Right, and project management is a sort of art form in and of itself.
It is a terrific art form, and in the case of $200 million worth of work, they need to be very, very good and experienced in their work, and we think in Green Gasaway we have that.
And I have comments as a board member on that panel, but I wanted to, if there's any other comments or questions right now, we can go back to more as well, but.
I got to hear you first.
Okay, so, one, I really went into it representing us as a board, and so I really took that lens in as what these firms could do for us as a board. And before I kind of go into that, one of the first questions that are asked after the interviews, which I thought was brilliant, was, do we need to go back to the drawing board? Do we have some firms that could service our projects well? And we all agreed that all 3 could, and so we felt confident that choosing one that day would be a good decision, and we decided to move forward. And then really, in my questions with all firms, I was really looking, as I said, as a lens to the board and how they would interact with the board, how they would provide information to the board, how they would prepare us for decisions that we need to make. And so I asked that of all 3. I also asked of the communications to the community. How would they keep our community informed of all of the projects that are going on? And they all had different angles of doing it. And one I thought would fit better with our community. And then I'm not quite sure who asked the question, but as we were discussing the 3 and coming down to narrowing it down, with Green Gasaway's history with the district, they have a long history with us, we all agreed that we did not want that to be an advantage in our decision, nor a disadvantage or a deterrent from choosing them. So that was also discussed. And then kind of lastly, there's many things that why Green Gasaway stood out to all of us, I believe. But one of the things that really stood out to me is that of all 3, all 3 talked about how challenging it is right now to build and to get contractors and to get people at the table, and some said you may not get it for what you're asking for, and we may have to reevaluate things. Green Gasaway said it is on we are responsible for getting people at the bidding table the day that we're asking for bids. And it was just one example of they were going to be proactive in making sure this process was going to happen and not come back to us and say, it's not working, you need to reevaluate. So I was most impressed with them. And again, I really looked at it representing our board, and so I wanted that to be part of this discussion.
I have one more thing to clarify, and this might not be known by everyone, but for these kind of professional services, this is not price-based. You pick the firm you want, and then you negotiate a contract. So it's not a bid like a construction contract, and so the laws are very specific on that.
Yes, and I asked that question as well.
Did you check references?
Well, we didn't with the others, because we were gonna look at the ones that, are the one we chose. And then we thought, well, Marcia has experience with them, we could ask her. The district has experiences. There were several outside of Peninsula School District that we could definitely look into. Did you have any others, in terms of references?
No, and I have to comment that they just finished a school for me in the Renton School District that was that Sartori Elementary. That was one of the most perfect projects that I've ever had the pleasure of being associated with. So that certainly didn't hurt them. I was the one I checked with myself, and I was satisfied.
Art, can you clarify again what you're looking for from the board tonight?
I would like approval of the selection of Green Gasaway, so that really enables us to begin and commence with the negotiations of an agreement, and then we would bring that agreement back to you. If you will, with your motion tonight, or with your approval, you will have selected a project manager, dependent, contingent on us coming up with an agreeable contract.
So potentially, you could come back and say, we can't reach agreement on how to do on the Boys and Girls Club, or site number 10,
I would
whatever.
prefer to have it that way.
Okay, and I don't disagree with you, but just so you know, we know the potential is there that the price is negotiable.
If anything just went wrong and we simply ended up in a place where that was not satisfactory, then we have not negotiated the contract. We will come back and say, here's what we would do from here.
So I would open up discussion again, but first, I ask again, is there a motion to approve the district to move forward with Green Gasaway in negotiating a contract?
I'll move approval of the this district's recommendation that we identify for the district to negotiate it and enter into a contract after they bring it back to us.
Yes.
So it's the negotiation of a contract, so it's not absolute that they will do all the projects. If I said that at all.
Is that okay?
Any way that you
is that
can
an
get it done,
okay
but-
with Green Gasaway?
Right.
Oh, say with Green Gasaway, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that we would take the district's recommendation, I wouldn't say
District.
stay with Green Gasaway, to appoint Green Gasaway as project managers for these 4 projects.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so it has been moved by Marcia and seconded by Lori to approve the district moving forward with Green Gasaway as our capital projects manager. All in favor, say aye.
Do we have more discussion?
Oh, I did promise that. Any more discussion?
Just for me, I think the folks at Green Gasaway have been members of this community for a very long time. They have very solid reputation. I think keeping projects local benefit our local community, so I think that's important. I do know also that over the past couple of years, the school board has been beaten up by several members of our community over our choices of our project managers and contractors, basically accusing us in the past of, I don't know if you want to say fraud or collusion or whatever, but
Not doing due diligence.
not doing our, yeah. So I mean, you know who I'm talking about, that we've been accused of not doing things ethically. So for me, it's just, I just wanted to make sure that all those precautions were taken into consideration, that we ended up with Green Gasaway, that that's one of the firms that we've been accused of sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but just a little bit.
Well,
concerned.
thank you, and I believe we went through a process that made sure that we were making the right selection. I would also add, and I don't think it came up, several members of the people that work for the firm are residents, they are neighbors, and so it would behoove them to do very well on this project, because we know where they live. So it's,
That's right.
you know, they're in it for us as well, and that feels good to us. So it has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we can move forward. We will now move on to 7.4, the bond sale schedule.
I'm going to invite Karen Anderson to the podium. We have, we mentioned three things at least in that last study session of the board that will be ahead of you. One of which is the actual sale of the bonds and the schedule and what that means to the board. A second one is to set up our finance and audit committee and at least get those meetings underway and have the organizational meeting. And thirdly, to have a capital project advisory committee and the schedule for that so that we are fully operational with a project manager, with a finance and audit committee, with the bond sales, the guy can get the money, and the excuse me, the advisory committee that will meet for the next 3 years on these projects. So with that, I would introduce the well-known figure of our chief financial officer, who will be the key person behind the scenes. And our first task is to go get $198,550,000 on our behalf.
Well, originally, we're only going to do one sale to begin with. It won't be the whole amount, but we will start that process. At this point, we've pretty much finalized. There might be a little bit more tweaking with this schedule that has been given to us by Piper Jaffray for the first bond sale. The goal is to have the sale occur so that we have funding in May, because we need to purchase the Boys and Girls Club by the beginning of June, with the closing of the end of June. So we are fast and furiously working through the process. We have already submitted our application to the State Board Bond Guarantee Program. We did that this last week. Currently, I'm working on the POS statement and getting information, updated information for that. We're proposing that the audit and, well, the Finance and Audit Advisory Committee be key in working with communication and understanding this sale and what goes into that. So if you flip to the next page, you'll see that the Finance and Audit Advisory Committee will be meeting on a monthly basis, at least starting next week through June. I'm not quite sure where we're going to go after that, but we want to make sure that they're involved with the process, understanding what goes into the sale of bonds and the sequence of events, and the things that we'll be asking of the board, resolutions that we'll be bringing before the board, and how the whole process works. At the same time, we're going to work with the audit, and we're going to work with the committee to develop a plan of how to report back to the board. Even though we have board members on the committee, we want to make sure that there's a communication link, and that whether that is the chair coming before the board and reporting out after each meeting, or if it's a written documentation and and then also a posting on our district website so that there's a communication out to the community also. So we'll have discussion at our meeting about what that might look like as far as communication. The first meeting that I'm proposing for this committee will be next Thursday prior to the board meeting. Reason being is we want to try and get them on board as far as what this schedule looks like and what it means, so that we can kind of go through this and start educating them about the process. My goal probably would be to bring Piper Jaffray to the board meeting also, right afterwards, so that he can kind of share, they can kind of share some of the process too, so that if there are any questions. If you notice, there are a couple of resolutions that we will be asking you to adopt in the future, and we'll want to make sure that you understand what that means and what that process is. So along with, with the audit finance, I'm kind of moving from one to the next, if that's okay. With the Finance and Audit Advisory Committee, we may need to have we will need to have another meeting in March. I don't know when that is, but that will be for our exit conference for our annual audit. But I wanted to get something on, I wanted to get a regularly scheduled meeting. And so I proposed meetings. We've been meeting on Monday evenings, usually Monday evenings, usually 6 to 7. So for April, May, and June, I'm proposing those meetings, and that's what I'm going to send out to the committee and share with the committee so that they can line those things up. Did you have a question?
Yeah. Will the committee be asked to weigh in on those dates to see what's possible?
Yes,
because
of
we haven't
course.
had a regular
I'm
schedule.
going to send that out. I definitely will send it out, and if there's a conflict, if Mondays don't work, then I would say, is there a better day?
But next Thursday will be less than a week in advance.
It's short, and if it's not possible, then we could move it into the following week. So it's just trying to get them in line, aware, and kind of get them into the process of a monthly meeting.
And I just want to remind the board, now, know if Lori was here, we formed this Finance and Audit Advisory Committee earlier in 2018. Board members brought forward recommendations, and we also opened it up to the public for people to submit resume basically, and we did select a member from the community that came forward, as well as went through and chose from the recommendations from the board. So that's how that committee was formed early last year.
Okay. The second committee that we're bringing forward is the Capital Projects Advisory Committee. And this is the one where David, you'll be the standing board member on this meeting, or this committee. There will be a rotating board member. The superintendent will sit on this committee. And then we would like to have at least 2 community members, preferably one from the Key Peninsula side of our district and the other from the Gig Harbor side. I would propose that Deb Krishnadas, the board president, ask members of the board to solicit interest in your communities and basically propose those names that would be willing to serve on the committee.
So I'll follow up with all of you and come up with the process of getting that information. When do you need that information by, Karen?
As soon as possible. If you notice, I'm proposing that our first meeting would be March 14th. I'm trying to hit board meetings so that I can capture the 5 to 6 hour before the board meeting. But this is an every other week meeting. This committee is going to be involved in what is going on with our projects, where are we at? And so The facilities, the capital facilities department, any of the planning, you'll know exactly what's going on with each project. What I envision is that we'll just go through project by project by project for each school and where we're at and the status of. In the beginning, it probably won't be lengthy, but when we're in the construction phase of those buildings, there may be one project that's just, everything's good, no issues. There might be another that takes maybe 45 minutes to just discuss. So the goal is to try and create something that is a reporting mechanism that gives you the information. We'll also develop a report format so that whoever decides to bring that before the board can do so. And also that it's something that we can post on our website so that we can keep the community up to date as to the progress of our projects. So this committee will also determine how that looks and what format that will take.
So again, I will be coming back to all of you guys to ask for that, and keep that, I think, that point in mind, that they will be meeting often. So we will have to ask the folks if they're ready for that type of a commitment. And then Karen, I'm also gonna ask, like we did with the Finance and Advisory Audit Committee, can we put it out to the public and have names brought forward? Because we know a lot of people, but we don't know everybody. To have their names brought in under the, for consideration as well. We'll manage it, but if we could just open that up to the community, I would appreciate that.
We won't be able to appoint them soon.
Well, if we could put it out there and quick turnaround, I mean, just put it out there.
We can put something out.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we'll be getting names and we'll add those names at the end.
But you should also have parameters of areas of expertise of what you're looking for, because, you need someone who's gonna understand. But the community needs to understand that's.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you answer Leslie's question?
It was a statement.
Finish that.
She made a statement.
Oh, okay. There's, on both of these, is it realistic to expect that the meetings will only be an hour long? And for them to, it's important that they have meaningful input in the decisions that the district's making, not just listen to a report. That's kind of deadly for committee membership.
So for the first meeting of the Finance and Audit Advisory Committee, it's basically to go over the schedule and to talk about future meetings. I envision that could be a longer meeting, and that's why I'm moving it away from a board meeting date and making it in an evening, which is what has been typical in the past, starting at 6 and maybe going to 7:30, 8 o'clock, for some of those where there has to be more discussion. For the Capital Projects Advisory Committee, it's more of an update, so maybe in the beginning, it might only be an hour. There may be the need to have a longer meeting or more frequent meetings, because we can't get through all of the project pieces. This is just starting it up right now.
So is a 5 o'clock time set in stone? Is it possible maybe if the members wanted it to start a little later, for those that have jobs, to maybe start early?
So what I tried to do was I tried to put it on a board meeting date, so that it would be right before the board meeting. We can make changes.
I haven't looked at my calendar for March 14th, so.
It's not set in stone.
I didn't know what day of the week that was.
You have a meeting that night.
Okay. But since we're gonna go out to the community, that the first meeting is 2 weeks from now. Is there any real requirement for us to have it on March 14th? Since we haven't even got the contract for the project manager yet?
No, I was just asked to start getting you.
That's, I would be all right with.
Another thing that we could consider is, and we did consider, is if for timing wise, if it would make more sense to do something earlier, like in the morning, first thing in the morning, if that's easier for folks. This is not set in stone, it's just a proposal. If you want to tweak and send me information about what would work for you, since you're the standing board member, you probably want to have some discussion about what rotating membership looks like, and how you might want to create that. And I am not married to any of this, so other than I needed to get something started.
I was just thinking if we opened it up to look for people from the community, where I think if the board made recommendations, we would get to those two community members probably more quickly. So if we're gonna go out to the community, maybe delay it just a little bit.
And Karen, I'll follow up with you tomorrow, and I think our discussion will actually help the board as well in what you're looking for, and I'll get that information out back to everybody, so. And sorry I threw that on you, but I think it's just important that we go back out and ask our community.
I really like your suggestion of the early morning, if that works for people. And the reason, I know some of the people that I've talked to be on these committees and we outline the scope of work, they don't like to drive after dark, or their night vision is not as good as that they'd like it to be, or they live way out on the key.
Okay.
And so early morning, sometimes that works better. So I would talk with the committee, because that's going to be a question when you invite people to serve on.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that's a question you can ask too, to kind of help sort of collect information. So if we're going to be bringing people, as recommendations, then we should be asking those questions and being able to provide that to Karen so that she can assess and see what the common areas are.
In the beginning, we want to try and create regular meetings in the beginning. When things really start to make progress, when you start construction, things are going to be changing on a daily basis. And so there may be the need that we have weekly meetings, or we have, updates that go out to the community and then we meet every other week. And we have to have discussion about what that looks like and what that communication will be, and how regular folks want to meet and how they want to keep up to date. So
my preference would be if you could shoot us a quick and dirty parameter for us to share.
Okay.
And then we will ask their community members or whoever we're going to be bringing forward, what are their preferred times to meet. And then we'll see, we'll say, we haven't made that decision yet, but we know you're going to be meeting frequently, so you need to know that it's going to be a commitment. And as far as the time, have them give you days and times that work best, and then we'll see where we are.
And I also think we should set up the expectation too that, like, a lot of the people that are part of this, or we're discussing, are the people that are working during the day. So, not saying it has to be in the middle of the day, but just kind of think about those schedules as well.
Let's just collect the information right now, and we'll figure out where we are.
Yep. Okay. Is that it, Karen? Karen?
I think so.
Okay, I have one question, and it's not really, it's related kind of to the bond schedule. I've had several people ask me.
The bond sale?
The bond sale.
Yes.
Yeah. And
how can they buy our bonds?
Schedule. How can we buy our bonds? So
I think that's going to be an important piece, and so what I would say is when we bring Piper Jaffray in next week, I think that should be something that we provide, information that we provide. Yes, because I have received.
There's great interest.
Yes, I have received questions about that too.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we kind of went through 7.4 through 7.6. Karen, unless you had anything else to add on the committee schedules? Okay. We will then, 7.7, we are withdrawn.
Yeah. So do we have to change that on the agenda? Or
We
did you-
did.
You did that already?
Yeah.
Sorry, just like that.
Okay. The way we were, yeah, we did. Okay, so then we would like to move on to 7.8, elementary school number 10, naming committee.
I'm recommending in item 7.8 that we begin the naming process. We may actually grow more and more fond of number 10. But I suspect, particularly as we talk about the variety of possibilities and use and starting time, it's probably especially significant to make sure that that has a name and identity as school number 10, but with a real name, so that as it develops over this next 2 or 3 years, it really continues to have that identity in it, that it is being funded by the bond issue, and we want to make sure it's got that. It will fill the role of one of the 2 new schools with the addition. So I think it's just significant to make sure that we name it. The naming process, we provided you the policy and the procedure and the information about it, and recommended composition of the committee. It's been my experience with boards that when the names come to you and the suggestions, you have every right, and you have even in your policy to create the exceptions you want. But ultimately, you've recruited a committee that will work its way through what will probably be several hundred volunteered names. And they will range all the way from very humorous to cartoon characters to whatever. And the first job of that committee usually is to screen that down to a reasonable 25 or something, and then bring the recommendations to the board. So it'd be it's really just a schedule. It calls for the superintendent to select a committee. I would like to ask the board for any names that you would like to recommend to me. In this case, we do not have a constituency, so we don't have a boundary or a set of children or a set of parents. So it really is wide open in the sense of who we have helped name it. And I would ask for your submittal of names or possibilities, and I'd be happy to put the committee together and eventually bring it back to you. Our target date, which is entirely arbitrary, but if before the school year ends, would be the May 9th board meeting, the board adoption for a name of elementary school, and that is just a suggested timeline. But I would ask for your consideration and knowledge that we're launching it, any names you have to submit, and certainly any advice you have on timeline if you don't like this one.
And you want names tonight, or do you want names coming?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Anytime. Surprisingly enough, we have even a few days.
Thank you.
So my question is, since we decided to put off the discussion on School 10, what's going to end up being down the road, I would think depending on what kind of school we end up making it, whether it's a school of choice or whether STEAM school, community school, arts, that the name might be very important that to go along with the type of school it is. So I'm saying, so I think if we were to wait to put the committee, I don't know, put the committee together and then just waiting until we decide what to do with School 10 is all I'm saying. But I would want to name it, put some thought of the name into what is it going to be, a STEAM or art or community-based school. You know?
I can chime in on that. I've thought about that as well, but my confidence of why we should move forward now is, one, I think it gives that identity of School 10 and that second new school. We could decide to go with the school of choice, and it might be arts, whatever. And 10 years down the road, we may decide that shouldn't be a school of arts for some reason. And now we have a school named School of Arts. And so while I like the idea of thinking about what the school's going to be and kind of incorporating that, I think that might bite us later.
So I actually lean more toward David's point of view. I don't know that I agree with the timeline. I would like to see the school name before September. I think that would be lovely. But I think that you're putting the cart before the horse, because they may not call it a School of the Arts, but it may have an artsy kind of name. They might want to do something to broaden that. So I don't see any harm in delaying that. As far as the community composition, my recommendation would be that the assistant superintendents are there to facilitate and organize. But I don't know that, particularly because we're gonna have staff represented, sometimes there's some freedom there if they know that they truly have that freedom to make those decisions. Because as lovely as you both are, you're still their bosses. So, to take that into consideration.
So then they're being as facilitators, but not necessarily a part of the deciding?
Yes.
Okay.
Last thing, since we do know where school 9 is gonna go, why are we not just moving forward with naming that school?
It was basically not to overload and try to do the naming at once. We can launch that one tomorrow. And I'm not joking, we really can do that. We simply.
You know, it's not gonna be a STEAM school or an art school, I'm just saying.
You have to consider 600 names.
That one will have we have in theory at least an idea of the area that will be served and the boundaries, so we would want to be somewhat faithful to that area.
Well, we already have an input for the school colors. So.
I do think there.
Did she designate which school?
One could be yellow, black, yellow, black, and yellow.
Exactly.
You do a 4. You do a 4 gold and black.
I have to say, okay, I'm gonna be the iconoclast in the group and say, I don't feel any pressure to name the school by September 1st. I mean, in reality, we are shaping that school. We don't wanna get the cart before the horse. I think that there may be a lot of good names out there, but I don't have a problem if we don't name it until we get to the place that we're about
You're not
ready to
feeling a
go.
sense of urgency.
What?
You're not feeling a sense of
Not
urgency.
at all. I honestly don't, and to push it might, yeah. I'd like to know what we're going to do with the space, and it may be an interim space until both schools are done, and then flesh it out. Some of those discussions came up tonight, so.
And if I may, we don't need action, so I can take my direction from what I hear and not be in any hurry to bring to you the next schedule for the process of the committee.
Lori, did you have?
Well, I was originally thinking that I thought it might be easier to discuss all these things if it had a name, if it was, whatever, XYZ. Regardless of what kind of school it was gonna become, I thought that would make it simpler so that to differentiate exactly what you're talking about as opposed to the Discovery Annex or whatever, concept. But I think that I'm now inclined to agree with Marcia and the rest of you. It can be done without naming it.
Yeah.
I kind of changed my mind.
And we may be ready by September 1st, but
Yeah.
I don't wanna rush the process.
I agree, and I'll just say one more thing about it in terms of, I think we are very excited about passing a bond. We got going on the process and we decided we need to, slow down a little bit. This is one thing that I think this community could kind of get it rallied around right now and be excited about in that process. So it might be fun for the community to go do that and kind of get engaged in this. And as well as the longer we call, eloquently naming them 9 and 10, they may always be that. It may always be 9. It may always be 10. And the longer we say that and kind of classify those schools as that, and I don't want my kid's school to be school number 10. I want it to be XYZ or whatever it is. So we all know that.
The Harbor North School I don't think would hurt just to come up with a name now and generate that momentum, but just maybe hold up on school 10 till we know what we're doing.
Right, the one thing that I've been doing a little research on, I mean, for the most part, we have really well-named schools here. And as I see it, I think we only have one school named after an individual, and that was Lucy Goodman, and she donated the land for that school, where Harbor Ridge is now. I mean, and she was a kindergarten teacher for 150 years. She's got a picture at the end in Cape Harbor of Lucy Goodman teaching school, so she's kind of a legend. But it's not the Lucy Goodman Goodman School, it's Goodman. But, I mean, Voyager, Discovery, but there's also some schools that have been named after the smaller schools that were out there before the district consolidated. So you've got Vaughn Elementary, there was a Vaughn school. And some of the others out there, some are named after bodies of water. So I think the district's done a great job up to this point. I'd like to continue that tradition.
So we may not need to move on this timeline, but I think there's interest to look at this in the near future, but
I will do that.
there you go. Okay, so then 7:10.
It is my pleasure, as best I can, to suggest that there is no more snow coming. I don't want to tempt the fates as I say that, but we do believe it would be an advantage to the parents and the community as a whole if we could identify our makeup days. Fortunately, you and the PEA in negotiating the calendar had identified 3 potential makeup days, and we need all 3 of those plus one other. So the recommendation is that we use the Friday before the Memorial Day weekend. Instead of being a 4-day weekend, that will now be a school day on that Friday. And the other 3 days will be an extension of the school year after the last day of school. We were scheduled to get out on Tuesday, and we now would get out on Friday. So we would add 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're still, that's the 21st of June becomes the last day of school. And we're not quite in the situation some districts are of going to the 4th of July and trying to get relief. So I would recommend to you to amend the school district calendar. We will post that for parents and community, that the makeup days would be in May and the 3 days in June. We'll publish that everywhere.
So with that, is there a motion to approve the revised 2018-2019 school year calendar? And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion prior to the vote? My only question that I have, if there's no other, David, no, is the AP students, they are missing 3 or 4 days, which is pretty critical because they test in early May. Unless we take care of eliminating spring break, which probably wouldn't be very popular. I don't see a way around that, but I think it's something to think about in the future, that these AP students are missing some pretty critical days. So, all right.
Be built into, I guess, not making.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's just thinking about it in the
Always
future.
problematic.
Right.
So,
The other thing is summer jobs for students in the high school level. As you become, juniors and seniors, when you get out of school and can go to work, sometimes those jobs start sooner rather than later in June, so.
As a superintendent, I'm counting this having been a 40-year storm. It will be 40 years before we have another 4 days to make up, and I will be retired by then.
and then the other question I had, the other question I had is, we've got kids graduating on the 15th of June, and so we've got 5 days after that. Do those seniors come back to school?
No.
We are in compliance. The seniors are allowed to miss 5 days of the scheduled 180 days, so they miss the next 5. It does mean on that they technically they go to I think it's the 11th of June, and then there are 3 days that week in which they practice and they do other things. Those count as school days. So what doesn't, the 5 days officially would be the 5 days the week after they graduate. So we are in full compliance.
Okay.
They don't have to go to school on Saturday in order to make that work.
Because they're graduating that day. I think it's a Saturday this year.
It is.
How'd you pull that out?
We jumped on it quickly as soon as it opened up on a Saturday.
Very good. All right, so it has been moved by Leslie and seconded by Lori. Is that correct? Was it Marcia? Sorry. Moved by Leslie and seconded by Marcia to approve the revised 2018-2019 school calendar year. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion has been approved. So now we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda prior to the vote? With that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have already done number 9, so we will move on to, the motion has been approved. Move on to board discussion and comments. Leslie, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. In the past, I've been taking some equity university training that has been provided by the Puget Sound ESD. Thank you. That has been provided by the Puget Sound ESD. It's a very worthwhile endeavor. It is something that I'm hoping that the board will be open to discuss at some point, that we attend some of the training, having them come here and do some training for us, as well as the superintendent, and I would also like to extend that out to the cabinet. I think it's really important work, and I'd like to have some other conversations with you, Deb, about what that would look like. And then right after that, on my way home, I got to attend by phone our Peninsula School District Equity Committee meeting. And I didn't see whoever was there. You were there, right, Dan?
I was not yesterday.
Oh, you were not? Okay. But there were some really great conversations and really great things happening. It's a very powerful group. It's a very intelligent group, a very knowledgeable group. And some of the highlights, Elise Yeaman from Gig Harbor High School has really been empowering the Latino Club and the Asian Pacific Islander Club at Gig Harbor High School, really advocating for them and understanding what does communities mean within the community of Gig Harbor High School. Sephora actually was also there and shared her poem that she shared with Peninsula High School, and I'm going to ask her for an autograph copy. It is, and I hope that we can post it somewhere. It is so powerful and so amazing, and really shared her experiences as a person of color at Peninsula High School. And I'm told that, the audience was just stunned, and that's pretty powerful too, to make high school students quiet, right? And have that moment. When people were walking out, I heard of that room. I also want to give some props out to Tom Lacey at Gig Harbor High School. He's really been drilling down and really working with staff in this equity work. He's doing a book study right now with Blindside, and it sounds like it's pretty exciting. I also want to mention that WASA and WASDA is also going to be having their annual conference. I really encourage the board. It's going to be May 28th. I can't remember the name of the keynote speaker, but he's pretty amazing. He comes from a school district in California, the Oakland Public School District. Carol, you may be familiar. Fremont High School. Pretty amazing, but it's a transformative experience, and it's actually a good place to get your feet wet. Prior to making that decision, probably I would like to invite the board to come and attend that conference.
So it's a 1 day or 3 days?
It's only 1 day,
Okay.
May 28th.
It's the one I went to last year.
Yeah, Dr. D'Angelo was speaking, she was our keynote speaker. So, but really great work. They decided to break out to some subcommittees to make some recommendations and do some more meaningful work and maybe meet a little bit more often. And I'm looking forward to what those subcommittees will be producing for our district.
Good thing. Lori?
Well, I have nothing nearly, is this on?
I know, right?
Nothing nearly as exciting as Leslie. My committees haven't met since we met last, hardly. But just to say again, just how excited I am about the passing of the bond and, you know, the future of the district. I think it's just unlimited. What the potential. I've always said that for the PSD, but now with some resources and great leadership with Art, I just wanted to reiterate that. And also to say, which you're not gonna like, just that personally for me, I just want to be clear. I'm from where I can only speak for myself and where I sit. Just so it's been really exciting making plans and going forward and trying to do absolutely everything that we said we wanted to try and accomplish from the get-go. I've only been on the board for 6 months, but just really fun to be a part of that And just to be very clear, for speaking only for myself, that my initial excitement about the concept of a school of choice was the potential to alleviate overcrowding at all schools. To me, it seemed like a win-win. I was super excited. I think it's awesome that we're going to take more time and consider. But that was, to me, an overcrowding solution. So I just wanted to say that. Anyway, I'm excited for the future.
Great. Marcia?
I've done a couple of very interesting things. I attended the Peninsula School, it's actually, Peninsula, Key Peninsula Violence Prevention, Student Violence Prevention Coalition, which is very interesting, looking at suicide issues, looking at conflict and reducing violence, sort of on the key. And it's a very broad-based, interesting group. So I've enjoyed that, but I learned, I guess it was yesterday, that CHI and Destiny healthcare systems are merging. And that's not really well known yet, and it's going to take a while to roll out. But it's going to be kind of a common spirit kind of concept that's going to be probably the bridge that brings them together. Secondly, I wanted to mention, many of you got your lovely tax notices recently, if you get yours in the mail. And in that tax notice, there's a note from our assessor treasurer which says school funding, local and state, accounts for over half of your property tax. So, of course, I had to be challenged, and I looked at the numbers and I thought, I don't believe that. So the county taxes represent 59%. Our taxes, it's our tax bill, is 41%. School tax and local school tax. So I haven't called them yet, but I did. I wanted to put that on everyone's radar.
You will though, right, Marcia?
I will. He's in his second term though, so. And then thirdly, and I shared this with Deb last Saturday, I was in the most rewarding experience I have been in for a long time. And that was sitting on a panel for hiring of the new Fire District 16 fire chief. And Sean's here in the audience, but I think you were probably as amazed as I was when all the panels, and there were 5 panels, and each panel was made up of 2 community members, a firefighter, a volunteer firefighter, and another person that worked for the fire district, but not a firefighter. It was such a rich discussion, and for each candidate, as we interviewed them, and they were all timed, after each one, we had a facilitator in our group from somewhere else, listed the strengths and weaknesses of each candidate right when we got through. So went through that, got to the end of the day. It was a long day. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when we got done. And then the committees got together and discussed each candidate and their strengths and weaknesses. And like I said, it was very rewarding. The commissioners pretty much, I think they asked people if they would like to be on the panel, but there were some people that were identified and kind of encouraged to be a part of it. So
When did they make any selection?
they did Tuesday night.
Who is it?
Dustin Morrow.
Yeah.
Dustin Morrow was his name. He actually lives in the area now, as I recall.
Not yet. He's in the process of, he's obtaining a rental right now, and he's actually looking for property.
Right. But they had a public forum the night before, so that all the community, whoever wanted to be there, could meet the candidates, ask questions, and candidates went to their corners and you could ask them. But I thought that for everyone, it felt very transparent. So kudos to
Interesting note that you might not know, Marcia. The facilitator told us afterwards, usually in much larger fire districts, they get anywhere from 25 to 30 people in the community at those meet and greets the night before. We had close to 80.
Oh yeah, it was KPMS gym was full, and yeah. So I mean that's the commitment of the keeping and stuff. Actually, of our whole school district.
Yeah.
But
That's besides night.
yeah, I thought we should look at maybe consider that process at the point that we move forward with the superintendent, because I think it would have some application as well.
Don't get any ideas yet. David?
Well, I usually don't say I go to chamber, but Leslie asked me to start making sure we go to chamber again. So chamber, I did go to the meeting the other night at Henderson Bay High School to listen to the community input on the new future name school 10. I don't know what that's going to be yet. It seems like we just had a board meeting last week. I think the snow and everything just got everybody out of whack. And like Eileen and Marcia said, we have a school board meeting last week. Pretty soon I'm going to be actually saying that. We're going to be having meetings all the time. And then the only thing, Deb's got something written down that I was going to say, but I'll let her do it.
You can do it.
No, you can do it.
Because I got other stuff.
No, I'll let you do it. But to sort of go off of what Lori said, it's funny that the 6 years that I've been on the school board, that how the school board over the years has been beat up by the members of the community for lack of transparency and all these negative emails we've gotten, all this, whatever you want to say, that for years and years we didn't pass a bond for all this stuff. And then the other night, you're so excited that you passed the bond. And now I'm getting emails and negative stuff accusing me of being not transparent and deliberately baiting and switching. And it's just, I don't like the word surreal, but it's surreal that we finally passed the bond and now we're getting, in a good way, I guess, that we're building 4 new schools. But it just goes Bob, being a public servant, just the life of a public servant, I guess, we get paid the big bucks for this job. I'm excited, I'm really, really excited to name the schools, to watch the schools get built, to watch the kids go to them, but it's funny, it's interesting. I know these board members, and they're all honest people, that's all I can say.
Well, I would take it as this, is that we're so fortunate, the reason why it passed is because we have an involved community.
Yeah.
And that feedback shows how involved they are. I would maybe it's negative, it's just saying, hey, can you think about this? And that's good.
Yeah.
They're here to keep us accountable.
Yeah.
And we haven't thought about this, and we need a little time to think about it.
Yes, we do. We would also like time, so thank you.
We're not perfect, is all I'm saying, we're not perfect.
They know that.
Well,
Maybe you're not.
Anything else, David? Okay, so just real quick, I did go to a high school, middle school band concert, and I won't go into it too much, but we have such amazing musicians in our schools, and our teachers for our music are pretty stellar. So I'm hoping someday we have some stellar facilities for them to actually perform in. So a dream of mine. Continue. I guess, David, from your, we did get comments from the board, to the board. We heard some at the middle, or the open forum on Monday. Art, I appreciate you being flexible and building that into your ability to listen and to still move forward, because we have a very big task in front of us. So I appreciate you willing to do that and allowing the board. It is better. So thank you. And then I also wanted to thank the board tonight. You did need to make some decisions that we didn't have a lot of information prior to. I also appreciate the trust that you gave me in being a part of the capital projects facility interview and coming back and reporting to you. So I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that and making some decisions tonight that we did need to make. And I believe this is what you wanted to say earlier. The entire board's thoughts are out to Jen and Todd Dempelwood. If you know, they were in a car accident and they're dealing with some major issues with that. So our thoughts to them. And then I think that's it. Again, I appreciate the board. I know that this process is going to be challenging and fun, But at the end of the, we need to make good, solid decisions, and we need to move at a quick pace as well in order to deliver 4 schools in 2.5 years, which is more than what we promised with this. We said 4 schools in 4 years. Art's on this mission to do 4 schools in 2.5 years, which I think is amazing. So we're in this together, guys, all of us. With that, we adjourn this meeting at 8:20 p.m. No executive session.
Bell ring.
Yeah.